Welcome to the Aesthetics Unfiltered Podcast. We are Michelle Jones and Melanie Torres, two leading medical aesthetic nurse practitioners and great friends based in California. We uncover the inner workings of the booming aesthetics industry from both the patients as well as the providers' perspectives.
Join us for the authentic conversations about current and trending treatments, best practices, and the real issues people face with modern beauty standards. Any information or advice given is general in nature. You should consult with a healthcare provider before undergoing any treatment.
Hey guys, here we are with Aesthetics Unfiltered, and today we're revisiting a topic that we had a lot of commentary on in our last season, and it's on filler myths. So we have 7 filler myths for you, and we want to debunk these myths for you. And these are things that come up in my day-to-day practice, and so it's nice just to chat about them. How are you today, Mel? How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm doing great. It's my day off, so I'm in a great mood.
Sundays are good days. Today we're filming on Sunday. It's our podcast day. And let's talk about aesthetics and let's debunk some of these filler myths. Unfortunately, filler still has some negative chatter online. And I feel like since we talked about it several months ago, it's even got a little crazier, and I've gotten even more commentary with just confusion around filler in general with my clientele. So the 7 myths that we're going to go over is it is hard to dissolve filler. So that's 1. Should I wait until my ideal weight to do filler? That's 2. Filler looks unnatural. That's 3. Should I see a plastic surgeon or a derm? They're probably better for filler. That's 4. I saw the filler on MRI on IG and it scared me. 5. Filler only fills the size of a blueberry. That's 6. And I can have anyone dissolve my filler. That's number 7. So these are some juicy topics we briefly touched over a few months ago, and we are going to revisit them again because it's still a hot topic. So it is hard to dissolve filler. I know in your practice, Mel, you said you weren't dissolving a ton. I'm not dissolving a ton, but I'm dissolving. And I think this is a hard topic because some filler is easy to dissolve and some filler is harder. And sometimes it's about knowing like what depth the filler's in. And if you're only approaching it at a certain depth, you're going to miss where that filler's at. So it's a technique thing. Sometimes we don't know what's in people's faces, and people could also forget what's in their face and be like, hey, I only had 1 syringe, when really they have like 5 syringes over time. That happens a lot, and that makes it more challenging. So those, I think with ultrasound, I'm starting to do more of that. It's become a nice tool. But sometimes, there is a big learning curve for that. So yeah, I think it's a hard question. Some filler is easier to dissolve, some is not. And I think it's case by case.
Yeah, I feel like I always recommend to people that it's always best to have the provider that did your filler that you want to have dissolved, to have the person dissolve it who injected it, because they know the area they did it, they know the type of filler they use, they know the technique they use, so they really know where the filler is. So I always recommend that. Dissolving lip filler to me is the easiest because, you can see the most where it migrated. If it migrated over time, it does that. It's not the injector's fault. It's just occasionally, it's like if you can see it, if you get too much lip filler, it migrates a little bit because your lips can only hold so much. So that's an easy one to dissolve. All hyaluronic acid filler is dissolvable. It's not a permanent thing. So if someone doesn't like the filler, you can get it dissolved, but I recommend going to the provider that did it.
I agree. Sometimes people can't because the clinic shut down or they didn't trust the provider, so that becomes tricky. And my recommendation is find out what's in your face before asking your new provider to dissolve it.
Yeah.
Basics. And then, I mean, I think one thing in general, I kind of want to create, sorry, I'm going a little off topic and I can't help myself today, but I think there should be like a passport book where you stamp what's in, like you're getting it stamped, but you're like every treatment, you're writing down what's in your face each
Hmm.
time. Like some injector out there needs to make that. I'm too busy, but like if you're inspired, make like a passport for your face, please.
Yeah, and go to a legitimate place where they keep your records. It's a legal requirement that people do medical records and do the time and date and the brand
Yeah.
and product that they inject into your face. So you can just call your med spa, call your doctor. If you had a bad experience in that place, you can get your medical records and then bring them to the new provider that you want to dissolve the filler.
Or I agree with that. Also, like if I was a patient, and which I am, on your phone, just write down every time you go and see your injector, ask them to tell you what filler they're using, and keep a record yourself. Like I do that for a lot of things. So that's something that way you're organized and because we forget sometimes what's in our face. But typically, if we know what's in there, it's easier to dissolve,
Yep.
Like, so, and I agree, lips are a little bit more straightforward. Although, like some lips, if it's like years of filler, it becomes, you might need a few rounds of dissolving instead of like one round of dissolving. So, all right, number two, I should wait until my ideal weight is reached to do filler. So, this is a tricky one. I hear this a lot in my practice, a lot of my patients. I mean, a lot of just the general public is on GL1Ps and, Ozempic weight loss meds, and, it affects their whole body loses weight. And so, I think in my opinion, it's kind of like the opposite. I think you should do little bits of filler along the way as you lose weight because that way we have less to correct in the long run and it looks more natural and it's not as drastic if you lose like 50 pounds and then we're replumping up your face and it's a more of a drastic result. But again, it's like whatever the patient is comfortable with. But I prefer to do like a little bit of Sculptra and a little bit of filler just in the process if they're planning on losing a lot of weight. What are your thoughts?
I agree because if you lose a lot of weight quickly, like a lot of people are, um, you lose it the most in your face first. So it's better not to lose everything, like you just said, and look gaunt and look dehydrated.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of better to do a little filler before you lose weight because
Yeah.
that way you have structure that can last a little bit while you have this drastic change in your face. So just know that they correlate and be aware before you go on GLP-1 inhibitors that you're going to lose it in your face first and that you want to be aware of that. So you're not like you look in the mirror one day after a month of losing 10 pounds and being like, because even 10 pounds, you see it lose it in your face first and it looks way different. So just be aware of
Hmm.
that even before you go on these weight loss drugs.
Yeah, so I agree. I think working with your injector while you're on your weight loss journey is helpful to maintain your face in the best way. I think that's the best way rather than losing all of the weight and then trying to refill it in more more dramatically. But yeah, I agree. I think that's a misconception out there. And if I do think sculpture is a nice way to go too, because at least it gives you a little like tightening to the skin at the same time. So we have options. Number three, filler looks unnatural. We went over this a few months ago, but for some reason, it's still buzzing around. I mean, I think it can look unnatural. Um, is there such a spectrum, it's crazy to me. It's like you it can look unnatural if that's your only tool and you're not balancing the face. What are your what are your thoughts, Mel?
I think it's just I we talked about this and just go to someone that you trust and that looks good themselves or looks natural themselves and just know that there's been a lot of progression over the years. I think the people that kind of look scary, the pillow face, they started getting filler before we had this refined, like artistic look into our industry, and how we know that aesthetics are like an art form. And so don't be scared. Like the pillow face thing is also from having a lot of bad botched plastic surgery from the 80s where it was done just tightening
Yes.
the skin back. So know that this is like our industry has gotten a lot more refined, and that you don't have to look that way. And then, in our next episode or whatever, we're going to be talking about how these amazing celebrities look, and like they've
Yeah.
had filler. The reason they've
Yeah.
always looked good is because they've been getting filler the whole time and they look great. So think about all the people that look amazing and not focus on, these kind of botched looking people.
I love that answer. And if people talked about it more, we would have less of this going on. It's like if people were really open about what they're doing, then the public wouldn't be as scared. Like, because a lot of people look really good now. Like, we're actually aging in reverse. There's a lot of celebrities that are looking way better. And if we were more open, it would be like, oh my gosh, she has filler and she looks amazing. Instead, it's just like, oh, look at that crazy overfilled face. So I totally agree. The industry has progressed, and it's not just filler that makes you look unnatural. So I feel like this is I don't know if this is still relevant, but like I think the public's more aware of that, like just because you're a doctor or a surgeon doesn't mean that you're a great injector. You're probably a great surgeon or a great, like, whatever your specialty is, but I think injectors, like it is a specialty and it's hard to do a million different things. But I think being a nurse practitioner, a physician assistant, an RN, you can still do amazing work as an aesthetic injector, and oftentimes better work because you're attending all of the advanced trainings where, you have to put in the time and effort to build your craft. What are your thoughts, Mel?
I think more and more I've been seeing a lot of my patients will come to me, saying I'm unhappy with my results. And, a lot of doctors started, and doctors can be amazing too. And there's some that I would
Yeah,
buy to have work
amazing.
on me. And like, I work with doctors who are like complete artists. So it's not everyone, but again, like the non physician providers like just do injectables. So that is one reason that's their specialty. And a lot of people, whether are doing this because doctors will do it as like a money maker, because they're regular doctors or not non-aesthetic doctors, like they're any type of doctor can do it, and they don't have experience with the art and the training of the aesthetic face because they're focused on medical procedures. So they actually don't even have as much training on making people look beautiful. But again, it's not one or the other. Again, look at the before and afters. Ask the credentialing of doctors that do it. Just because they have an MD or doctor in front of their name doesn't mean that they've been trained on the artistry of aesthetic medicine.
Great answer. And that's another, yeah, it's there. I think our country has moderate regulation with aesthetics, but like there are some countries that have no regulation. There are some countries that have like very strict regulation. And I think anyone can market themselves, but it's confusing for the patient out there. And, word of mouth, if your friend looks amazing and they're getting good outcomes, that's always probably the best recommendation. Even reviews online can be fake, sorry. So, I think just because you have a doctor in front of your name doesn't mean that you're necessarily more skilled at the art of aesthetic medicine. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, moving on. Back to the MRI thing. So there was an MRI study, and a lot of injectors and social media influencers with no medical background used it as a platform to just confuse the public even more on filler and what does this even mean. So some patients still bring up, oh, I saw the MRI of filler in the face and it looked like they had twice as much. Well, yes, they did, because filler is hydrophilic, so it pulls in water as well. So that makes sense. And if your face on the outside looks great, then it doesn't matter what the MRI looks like, unless it's like really problematic, and on the outside your face looks overfilled or botched. So I think the public was just confused with that, but like really we're told, oh, filler is the size of a blueberry. It's not really, because it pulls in water, and each type of filler is different in how hydrophilic it is. And so some fillers under the skin will pull in more water and swell more, and some won't. So I think that's a myth. We're kind of hitting two at the same time with that one. I just think the MRI thing, they were just confused of like what it meant. But really, if your face on the outside looks great, it kind of doesn't matter what the filler looks like on the inside. That's my rationale there. If it's not hurting anything, and it's in the right anatomical plane.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that as well. I'm not going to believe anything about the MRI study until there's a longitudinal study where there are photographs of the patient, the visual patient, the MRI there starting before they had filler, right after they had filler. And if there's many MRIs over the 10-year thing, I'm not going to believe any
I
picture of an
love that.
MRI and a non-injector who I have a doctor saying, oh, look, there's filler forever. Let me see pictures and MRIs over like a 10-year period, and then I will believe that study or that person who's talking about it.
Yeah, give us more studies that are legit.
And more
Give
pictures of
us
the
more.
human.
Give us more.
Just show us before and afters and the
Yeah.
MRI in a long range of time. And then I will believe you on TikTok.
Mel, that was so good. That
Yeah,
was really
thank you.
good.
Then it's an end to the MRI thing. Okay.
I agree. This is just
Yeah.
like basic, like common sense.
Yeah. It's like, whatever.
Anyways,
Anyway.
sheesh. All right, the last myth, number 7. I can have anyone dissolve my filler. Whew. So as I've been dissolving more faces, and a lot of it's not my work, it's kind of like people that are coming to me, and I'm like, you know what? We can make that look better. Let's I think your filler is actually in the muscle layer, and that's why it looks a little overfilled. Let me dissolve it, and we're going to reposition a different filler in the right plane for you, and it's going to look more natural. So sometimes it's hard to dissolve. We talked about this, to dissolve the filler, and dissolving is kind of an art, which I realized we're all taught to inject filler as aesthetic practitioners, but we really don't have a course on how do you dissolve artfully. And dissolving can be expensive for a practice as well, like the Hylenex, and some practices don't even have a lot of Hylenex, which is the dissolving agent, which you need in case of an occlusion where the filler gets in a blood vessel, which is extremely rare. But like, my point is there's more emphasis around dissolving incorrectly placed filler and redoing it. And we do need more education around that. And like you said, Mel, it's better to go to the practitioner who placed it because they understand your anatomy, what product they use, etc. So that would be ideal. Definitely get records and ask for education on dissolving. And what are your thoughts on that? Am I just going off the deep end on this?
The whole dissolving, I mean, I think people are going in and talking about it because it's trendy and everyone's like, now I want to dissolve it. People just go off these
Yeah.
social media like trends and stuff. And it's like, just go talk to someone reputable and just look at your face and see if it even needs to be dissolved. I mean, I do agree.
Yeah.
I went to a training last week and it's true. It can, over time, it's not going to move from like one side of your face to the
Yeah.
other, but over
Yeah.
time it can just even shift a little tiny bit. And if you see it a little bit, it can be easily dissolved. You don't have to dissolve your whole face, and know that your own
Yeah.
hyaluronic acid is not going to be permanently dissolved. If you get a little
Yes.
bit of Hylenex, that it is regrown within 24 hours. Your own hyaluronic acid is replenished, because what
Yeah.
it is it's bringing water to the area. Hyaluronic acid holds water in your face, so the water comes back to the area, and you're never going to permanently dissolve your own hyaluronic acid in your face, but just if it don't just dissolve if it's trendy. Like if you like the way you look,
Yeah.
just like stay that way. You know, it's like if you
Yeah.
see it or like if it's causing some swelling or something, go to the original provider. It's just again, it's another internet trend thing that people are freaking out about, and it can be taken care of and just relax.
Thank you.
You're
Honestly,
welcome.
nailed that. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, and some fillers, I hate to say it, are more hydrophilic, and it's natural for those fillers to wax and wane. Depending, like lips wax and wane, depending on your hydration level, and your tear troughs wax and wane. So naturally, those areas, some days they're going to look more hydrated, and some days they're going to look more sunken in, and some days they're going to look puffy, and that's just the nature of your anatomy. And then sometimes it is a problem that's escalated with the type of filler, and that's why you need your injector to kind of guide you on that and watch it. But don't just come in and dissolve your whole face for the hell of it. Let's be strategic about it, and that's why maybe find an injector that's good with ultrasound that you can actually see if there's filler under there. Bring a record of what's in your face, and then also be prepared to show us photos of your face like 5 years ago, like when you didn't have filler, even though you'll be younger, but it is helpful just to see your natural bone structure. So I do think that dissolving is an art. Also, like certain areas of the face do dissolve faster, in my opinion, like under eyes can dissolve really quickly, and patients have to be ready for a journey to refill or have a plan to get surgery if they take out their old filler because they're going to look really hollow, even though they'll look better aesthetically. It's like a psychological like
Right. And
journey.
then they're like, "Oh, I wish I didn't dissolve my filler." And it's like
Yeah.
just be patient, and always my thing just to end this episode is
Yeah.
always make sure you take before and after photos of each filler treatment you get, so you have a pre-photo to make sure that it's filler, and that way you can take a photographic journal of your
Yeah.
treatments.
Yeah, and a lot of my patients do have little journeys. They have a folder on their phone that's like after this session, after that. It's good for you just to like track your own journey. All right, you guys, hopefully you enjoyed that episode. This was a popular one a few months ago, and we were just recapping and adding on to it. And thank you for all your expert insight, Mel. You are amazing, and I
You
hope to see
too.
you guys on the next episode. Okay, bye.
Bye.
For our latest news, follow us on Instagram at aesthetics.unfiltered.podcast or in our personal pages on Instagram.
Mine is melanie.skin.np and Michelle skin.smarty.np, both on Instagram. Have a great day.